Hi, everyone. Doc T here with another episode of the Horses Advocate podcast. I am in a hotel room, so if the acoustics sound bad, I apologize, but I often have to just get these out when I can. And this is just the life of being on the road. Also, the lighting is going to be fading fast as the sunlight is going down through the window. I wanted to mention in this podcast 5 or 6 different emails I received this week targeting veterinarians, equine veterinarians. And I want you to hear what they have to say, and then I want you to hear my take on it, which is always different than what they expect. So the first one was the EDCC, which is the Equine Equine Disease Communication Center, which tells me on a daily basis what contagious diseases are being located throughout the country. And it's usually strangles or encephalitis or equine herpes or something like that. So it's just kind of interesting to see how these all play out. But this one was a special one that just said, the biosecurity education continues. And they say that they were awarded a cooperative agreement with the USDA. And they said last year, with the help of the American Association of Equine Practitioners Infectious Disease Committee, the EDCC surveyed thousands of owners, veterinarians, and state animal officials to identify the gaps in biosecurity knowledge. So let me tell you what biosecurity is. It's a catchword that came out when we had anthrax being sent to people in envelopes, and the word caught on. Everyone says, oh, we have to be secure in the biosphere. And then we had equine herpes virus breakout in Wellington and other places, other major horse centers. And there were protocols set up to help prevent diseases that come onto a property of lots of horses in a confined area from spreading and having it become a disaster. So that's what biosecurity is all about. So let me go on. It said, an initial review revealed the following. Most horses are used for pleasure trail riding. 90% of owners use their veterinarian as a primary resource to prevent infectious diseases. So I thought that was really good. But you have to remember that whether you're talking about your own health or your horse's health or any animal's health, you have to be the primary person to understand what you're getting, what you need, and then have the veterinarian help you in your assessment to make sure that you're making good decisions. You shouldn't just be there as a bump on a log saying, oh, it's spring, doc, come on out and do the spring shots. And then they come out and they fill your horse up with everything under the sun when your horse is just a pasture ornament in the backyard and never goes anywhere. But here, the initial reviews show that 90% of owners use their veterinarian as a primary resource. They go on to say 79% have vaccines administered by a veterinarian. So that's not bad. 4/5 of horses that are vaccinated by veterinarians. And I think that's a good idea because you get a pair of eyes on the horse, which I think is phenomenal. They can help you with so many things. I know that when I go out to float horses' teeth, I spend a lot of time talking about nutrition or looking at the horse and answering any questions that these horse owners have. 46% of facilities, that means like a boarding stable, where horses reside do not have a plan to help prevent infectious diseases. And I absolutely believe that. I mean, every place I go, they just, let's load the stalls up. If the stall is empty, it's not earning money. We have to keep these horses in there. But then they go to horse shows, so they all go out and then they all come back. And there's some horses that are left in the barn that get exposed to disease that the horse that left comes back with, and you've got an outbreak. It could be strangles, it could be equine herpes virus or anything else. So there's usually no biosecurity there. And heaven forbid, if you have a broodmare in that barn and you've got horses coming and going to horse shows, you're just asking for trouble because that mare will get herpes or something and abort the fetus. And that's just so sad. Then it said 75% of horses have contact with non-resident horses each year. So I guess what that means is horses are coming and going. In other words, it's a transient population. Now, if you go back to 2007 on my YouTube channel, you're going to find a YouTube that I did about vaccinations. Now, 2007 is, gosh, 15 years ago. And there I said the best defense against disease is don't get around horses that are coming and going. Don't go into the transient population. Keep your horse in what's called a closed herd, not an open herd. And it was so funny because the pandemic came out and they're all talking about COVID, and they said, keep your distance 6 feet and stay at home and isolate and all this stuff. There's a completely, there's a basis for that. There's a completely wrong thing about that. If your horses want to become immune to all the diseases out there, you have to get the horse out. You have to get the horse looking at other diseases and learning, training their immune system to take care of that. So that's part of it. And you have to vaccinate to help some of these horses get prepared for that. But what I was saying was, if you have a closed herd and they are never, ever, ever going to get exposed to, let's say, strangles because they're just sitting at home, a deer or a raccoon or something is not going to bring it on, then why vaccinate for strangles? Why put your horse through that exposure or your expense? You don't have to do it. So there's a little bit different. I mean, humans have to be moving around. We have to go to work, go to school, go to the barn, we meet people, we pump gas. And that's an open herd. I mean, humans are the epitome of an open herd, but our horses can be in a closed herd. And I think that's really important. So I thought this newsletter actually was a pretty good newsletter to wake up and let everybody know that nobody's got an action plan, even though I've been talking about it since 2007. And most veterinarians will tell you, close the barn. Don't let horses in and out. Don't take them off the property and bring them back. If you do, you need to be vaccinated for that. But I will tell you, I received an email recently from a person who said she's absolutely against all vaccines. I will not vaccinate my horse, period. And I immediately just emailed her back and said, always vaccinate your horse for a disease that will kill your horse. And they are tetanus and rabies. And don't argue. In fact, I basically told people, if you're not going to vaccinate your horse for rabies, I don't want to come out and help you. Because if you won't do that simple step, the more deadly the disease is, the better the vaccine is. So if it's a cough thing, a respiratory thing, we've all been through this COVID, and do vaccines work or not? Some of us remember the MMR for our children, and there was all this connection between the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine causing autism in children. And that was debunked, and then was it debunked? And the argument still goes on. It's a pretty interesting study. But the bottom line is, if the disease is going to kill your horse, tetanus and rabies will work, period. I did say to her if they are administered correctly, and she asked, what does that mean? And basically, you need to take a vial that's been maintained, or if you buy them by the syringe full, it has to be maintained in cool temperatures. It can't be exposed to heat or direct sunlight. You have to shake the container and re-emulsify everything. And if you don't look, you won't find that little pellet that's in the bottom of the vial. And I used to take the syringe and inject it, or place the syringe in the vial and pull out, and then I would squirt it in under pressure, high velocity, through the needle into the corners to get all that pellet stirred up. And then I would shake it like crazy. And once I knew that it was fully suspended, I would draw it up and run over and inject it within 60 seconds. And if it was longer than that, I would draw more air up in the syringe, shake it in the syringe, push the air out, and then inject it. And knock on wood, I never had any injection reactions. But it's really funny is if you read the vial of every vaccine out there, it emphasizes to shake well. And I've seen so many people just take the vaccine right out of the package, never shake it, and just inject it. And I'm like, look, if you're not going to read the directions, don't be surprised that the horse's neck becomes swollen and hot and all these other adversities. Anyway, so that was one email I wanted to bring to your attention, that EDCC Disease Center was just helping people understand how to keep your horse biosecured. And if you're listening to this and you have horses in the backyard, tetanus and rabies and encephalitis, those are mosquito borne. If you have Potomac horse fever in the area, you can consider doing that. Talk to your veterinarian. That's why you ask them, because they know the area. They know if Potomac horse fever's out. They're watching the sentinel birds, and the sentinel birds, if they start getting encephalitis, even though it's called equine encephalitis, it's really an avian thing where it goes around the birds. But if it gets in the horse through the mosquito, it's a dead-end host, which means the horse gets very, very sick and often dies. So you want to vaccinate for that. But I've said my piece on vaccines in other places. I just want to let you know that they're making a push, because here it is springtime, and at least it's May when I'm recording this, and a lot of people are doing their spring shots. Okay, let's look at another one. This is an email that was sent to me for diclazaril, which is a member of the triazine class of antiprotozoals, according to this email. In the U.S., it is an FDA, Federal Food and Drug Administration, approved for the treatment of equine protozoal myeloencephalitis, also known as EPM, caused by Sarcocystis neurona, and is a coccidiostat in broiler chickens. So they have to put the whole thing in there. And they're very clear that diclazaril treatment is pretty good in horses, and they have the recommended dosage of what it should be to a horse or to a foal. They also say vitamin E supplementation is also frequently recommended due to its antioxidant properties. Horses with severe acute neurological deficits may also be treated initially with flunixin, phenylbutazone, or Demosil. All right, now here comes the next part. And this is the part that if you're not conscious, you're going to say, you can easily get fooled. So they said that this pharmaceutical company is an industry-leading veterinary compounding pharmacy offering sterile and non-sterile compounding services nationwide. And they're offering diclazaril in a formulation that is different than the FDA formulation. This is why if you buy phenylbutazone and it's flavored, that is a different formulation, and that's not FDA approved, and therefore you can't find flavored phenylbutazone. You can't find an oral suspension of diclazaril. You can't find diclazaril with levamisole and vitamin E succinate as an oral paste or an oral suspension. And that's what this compounding pharmacy is offering. They're offering the same drug with other drugs mixed into it in a suspension form, which apparently diclazaril does not come in. It's not approved by the FDA. So should you get this or not? Chances are it's less expensive. As all compounding drugs are, they're either less expensive or they're easy to give. And I won't buy any compounded drugs, period. I've known horses to die from improperly compounded drugs. Humans die from improperly compounded drugs every day throughout the US, throughout the world. The FDA is always looking at their drugs that are coming out. They're highly regulated. They're constantly being tested. And I can feel with 100% confidence that if I draw a medicine out of a vial that's been FDA approved and I give it to your horse, I may be foolish, and there could be a minuscule chance of it causing a problem in your horse, but I'd say 99.9999999% it's not going to cause a problem in your horse, because I know that what's in that bottle is absolutely guaranteed that that's what it is. How many times have we tried to get some sort of drug and they say, no, the FDA has pulled it because there's a problem and we can't get that drug for so long. It's happened to Butte so many times, I can't even begin to tell you. So that's what FDA does here in America, and your country, if you're listening to this in other countries, I'm sure they also have something similar. So here's a compounding company saying, hey, we can get you the same drug. It just comes in a different formulation, and trust us, we know what we're doing. So I personally know the fellow who got the Biodil for the polo ponies in Wellington, and that was administered, and within a half hour, they're all dropping dead in front of the polo field stands, all the people who are watching the show. And he was absolutely devastated. He couldn't talk for so long because none of us, not a vet out there or a physician, wants to give you something that's going to kill your horse. But we trust these compounding companies, and they want to make sure that they continue to thrive. And so they're going to say, we have the best nationally recognized industry leading veterinary compounding pharmacy. They're going to use words like this, but there is absolutely no guarantee. So I just say, let the buyer beware of all compounding drugs. Okay, here's another one. And unfortunately, I just tapped it, and it takes a while for it to load. So this is going to be a case where they want me to get a drug that's going to help against colic in horses. This is how the email goes. We've all been there. Picture this. You've had a full schedule of calls for the day. You're finishing up, and your last one, ready to wrap things up and head home, when you get a call from an owner. The horse, one that you've been out to see at least every month for the past few months, is colicking again. The signs sound mild, but still something that shouldn't wait until tomorrow. It's another late call, another frustrated owner dealing with a recurrently sick horse, and another phone call home that the family can just start dinner without you. We've all been there, and many vets would agree that chronic GI disturbances is one of the most frustrating categories of disorders they see. From recurrent colic to intractable watery diarrhea, hardworking doctors just like you are heading out to deal with the same issue again and again. Oh my goodness. That's marketing 101. Create a picture of stress, a pain point of, I'm a veterinarian, but gosh, I want to be home and have dinner with my family. And it's just rude of this person to be calling me because the horse is colicking again. And why can't the horse get better? And I don't know what's happening. And now I got to go out there and I got to face the traffic. And there's stupid people out here. And it's on and on. And it really ticks me off for a couple of reasons. One, they are again framing a problem that your horse has. And instead of addressing the reasons why it's happening and eliminating the causes, they say, we have a product here that you as a veterinarian can give to these people, to their horses, so the horse gets better and everybody's happy. That's the whole thing. Problem, solution, classic marketing. Nowhere in that did it say anything about the horse other than a recurrently sick horse. And I'm like, come on, it's a horse that's suffering. It's not just, oh, he's colicking now. What about all the hours before that where he's saying, gosh, I don't feel really good. I'm not, and then you went ahead and rode him and pushed him through it. And now he's not feeling good. He's colicking again. And nobody's talking about the horse. Nobody's saying, hey, let's take care of this. And I brought to you in a earlier podcast a concept that is taking hold in the medical community of medicine 2.0 versus medicine 3.0. I'll give Dr. Peter Attia credit for that. I think I've heard that in other places. I think we're all agreeing that medicine 2.0 is, you have a problem, we got to fix. And that's exactly what this anti-ulcer thing, medication, it's a problem and we've got to fix. It's not medicine 3.0 where, hey, let's look and figure out what's causing it in the first place and eliminate it. Let's get to the root cause. I was talking to somebody just last week, And they were saying, yep, the horse is on was it misoprostol or Prilosec, basically, Gastrogard. It was on the Gastrogard, and she said, we're just keeping on there, and the horse is doing great. And the back of my brain is thinking about another client of mine who told me about her husband who died of esophageal cancer that they now believe was secondary to chronic use of Prilosec, which is an anti-ulcer drug, just like Gastrogard. But that was chronic use. But this person is saying, no, I'm just going to give Gastrogard to this 5-year-old. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, but why aren't you taking care of the cause? I mean, all you're doing is giving this drug, and you're going to do it for 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever. And then you're going to pull the drug off, and surprise, he gets ulcery again. You know, you're not taking care of the problem. No one's teaching you how to take care of the problem. Here again is an advertisement pulling at my heartstrings as a veterinarian who has to go out one more time, at night. I mean, this is, this old timers have no problem with that. The new veterinarians are concerned about something called, what do they call that? Work-life balance. And their work-life balance is being upset. They want to go out and have fun with their family or do something else, and they're called out away again. And they're addressing that work-life balance a lot in our profession, and that's great. I have no problem with that. Obviously, hiring more people as equine veterinarians to give yourself some time off is a way to do that. Unfortunately, with only 1.4% of all graduates going into horse practice and half of those quitting horse practice within 5 years, it makes it kind of tough. They take some quotes. There's a board-certified internal medicine specialist from a very well-known medical practice. Says, quote, certainly we've had cases where they've been colicking, usually multiple times a year to monthly. After starting them on this product, those colic episodes have either gone away entirely or have decreased in frequency to a point that it is much more manageable for these owners. Again, nobody's looking at the root cause. Where's the stress? What's going on with these horses? Are they getting inflammatory foods that are causing this? It's crazy. Let's see. When you add in pre and probiotics, a gastric buffer, digestive enzymes, yeast, and calcium carbonate, you have a powerful and versatile ingredient combination not seen in any other digestive aid. So this product has all those things, a pre and probiotic. And most people don't even know what a pre and pro is. And it was so funny is the pro goes ahead of the pre. Pre, by definition, means it's like before. But the prebiotic actually is a resistant starch that's feeding the gut bacteria in the hindgut. The probiotics are bacteria that you're putting in the stomach to help seed the population with no assurance that that's actually working, that's actually getting in there, not being destroyed by the stomach acids. Then you have a gastric buffer, and every time you change the pH of the digestive juices, they make them less efficient to kill bacteria that are bad coming down the pipe, like dirt. It doesn't help in the digestion of proteins or the whole digestive process. Then it has digestive enzymes. Again, we don't know if these are actually working. Yeast, everyone's throwing yeast in because they think yeast is going to solve everything. Not necessarily. All yeast is digested into uric acid in humans, and uric acid leads not only to gout, but increased blood pressure and decreased production of insulin. So what are we doing when we throw yeast in there? And of course, calcium carbonate, which you and I know as Tums. So, and calcium carbonate seems to be in every food that's being fed to horse. So we're just wondering what the heck's going on there. So now there's another gal, a board internist in South Florida. I know this woman. She does a lot of good work and is well respected down here. And they quote her, "This product I recommend on every case I have that gets diarrhea, inflammatory bowel disease, chronic colics, and even acute colics. It's filled with good probiotics and psyllium that really help with hindgut digestion." And of course, psyllium is husks of the, what plant? I can't remember. But it's basically resistant starch, it's fiber. It supposedly calms the gut down. But we also know that psyllium is not as good as a normalized gut bacteria in what they call the microbiome, and adequate amounts of forage. And that's been proven over and over. It's better than psyllium, or what they call sand clear. So I'm just like, here are these two prominent board certified veterinarians that are saying, yep, we go to this product, instead of saying, well, wait a minute, what's causing it? Where is the, what's the underlying factors that are causing this disruption in the microbiome and this chronic colic? It just fascinates me, just absolutely fascinates me, that these people can go on and approach us veterinarians as if we don't have a brain, as if we're just all frustrated with practice and very frustrated with, how dare somebody call me that my horse is colicking at night when I want to go home and have dinner with my family. And by golly, I'm just going to buy the stuff. I'll sell it to him. I can make some more money here. Just take this. We're going to end the problem. And no one's saying, gosh, if we just stop feeding grain, if we start feeding more pasture or forage, maybe these things would go away. But you know me, that's how I feel. Okay, the next one is from a group called the Canine Review. And while this doesn't have anything to do with horses, I found it fascinating. They were basically saying that they obtained a diet-associated or FDA records that show that certain dog foods have associated dilated cardiomyopathy, which basically means your horse basically can die in this stuff. Let's see. What they said was the food brands named most frequently in this diet-associated cardiomyopathy cases reported to the FDA based on Freedom of Information Act. They had to sue to get Freedom of Information Act from the FDA to get this data. But they said Acana, A-C-A-N-A, was the most, followed by Taste of the Wild, then Signature, Blue, Kirkland's Natures, Earthborn, From, 4Health, etc. It goes right on down to Instinct. Now, listen, you guys, don't pick up the phone and call me and say I'm propagating stuff. I'm just saying that in this Freedom of Information Act, they got the information that the number of cases reported to the FDA based on their document search went from anywhere low 11 cases all the way up to 116 cases for these things. And what I'm trying to say is this group is calling out the feed companies and saying, guys, what you're putting in the food may not be in the best interest of the dog we're feeding. And this is the message I'm saying. What's being put into the horse feeds may not be in the best interest of the horse. And do I have proof? No, I don't have a gazillion dollars to have thousands of horses put on a controlled randomized trial. I just have 50 years of experience looking at horses and saying, oh my gosh, what's happening? They're all getting sick. They're all, I mean, there's a brand new colic out there that we didn't have going through vet school, that one of the first cases at Cornell I'd sent in, and the resident was doing his rectal, and he says, oh my gosh, I think this is a nephrosplenic ligament entrapment. It's the first one he'd ever seen. They just heard about it coming from, I think it was Sweden. And there are other diseases that are hitting us, and it could be all secondary to how we're feeding them as well as caring for them. And when I say as well as caring for them, I just worked on a farm where these big warm bloods were kept in 10 by 10 stalls. I mean, these horses are in there every night, every day, in a 10 by 10 stall. They're being ultra groomed, done up like pretty boys, to go be ridden by owners who don't even know how to hold a brush, but they love to ride them. And they're also being fed not only grain, but a lot of treats, you know, carrots and sugar cubes and all this other stuff. And that's one half the barn. The other half of the barn, they've gotten the message. It's a different trainer, and they're feeding forage and adding some soybean meal. And those horses are so much easier to work on. It's so much fun. Okay, the next one was a company that sells non-invasive laser therapy. And they say we can help your athletes with ligament and lower back issues. DJD, developmental joint disease. Sorry, I had to figure that one out, and more. And they said, we'll bring free coffee for you and your staff if you just schedule a demonstration. So all I have to do is schedule a demonstration, and me and my gang are all going to get free coffee. Well, there's a good reason. I'll never forget the guy who came to my house, literally sat in my living room. He was a drug salesman for the local distributor for veterinary products. I got to make sure we understand that this is legitimate, not my drug dealer selling me stuff on the street. But he came in and he says, you need to get this Panicure. This Panicure is the best dewormer out there. And now we have this power pack coming out, and it's so good, and it's going to take care of all the parasites inside your horse. And I looked at him, I'm like, no, your product sucks. I'm sorry. It really is no good. He says, oh, no, it's formulated, it tastes good. And he squirts some on his finger and he eats it. He sticks it in his mouth and licks it off his finger. And he says, it tastes really good. It's the reason why you should get it. True story. And I said to him, I'm really a nice guy, but I said to him, you need to go. I said, I'm not buying a thing from you. You need to go. I mean, you're a nice guy. I get it. But for me to want to buy a product that I don't think works very well, and you're telling me it's because it tastes good to a human, I was just so funny. But anyway, this group is going to bring me coffee. And it says, do your equine athletes struggle with soft tissue injuries and back pain? Our lasers can help. Develop more ways to help them reach and maintain peak performance with a complimentary demonstration of the therapy laser. We'll bring coffee to you on the go and give you a hands-on demonstration of how these lasers effectively reduce pain and inflammation while accelerating healing non-surgically to keep your athletes at their peak. And I thought that was interesting because I just saw a gal, she's a vet tech, come out with a laser and to do the laser treatment on a horse in the barn that I was working at. And I asked her, as she's flipping thing up and down on this tendon in the hind leg, I said, so tell me about this, how does it work? And they said, well, we really don't know how it works. I swear, that was her statement. We really don't know how these things work, but somehow it increases healing. So I was thinking, no, I shouldn't say this. There may be some other treatments that might work. Maybe if I start singing more in the barn, we can get more healing done because the vibrations of my vocal cords. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm being cynical. I get how some of you would say, oh no, laser works really well. But again, we keep going back to the same thing. Why did it happen in the first place? Why is the suspensory gone, the tendon lame? Why is this happening? And I keep asking people, I wanted to ask her, and she basically clammed up, and then I was able to have her start talking. She started overflowing with information. And as she went along, I kept listening for her to say, the structures of these connective tissues that we've got are not holding up to the work that we're doing. And while we don't know why, we know that if we could strengthen these tissues, we wouldn't have to need these because they wouldn't be breaking down anymore. But I didn't hear that. She didn't say anything. And here it's like learn about, and they have some bullet points. The emergence of photobiomodulation in the equine industry, the emergence. In other words, there's a technology available and we're going to use it because maybe we're going to get some increased healing. But healing of ligaments and tendons is all done by these cells that come in, and the cells, it lays down fibrin connective tissue to kind of patch up the damaged area, and it's never going to be as strong as the original equipment. What would happen if we prevented the original equipment from breaking down? Wouldn't that be a lot better? Then it goes on to say, using laser for non-invasive acupuncture. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, with acupuncture, you're going to stick a needle in, but with this laser, you're still invading. Just because you're not sticking a needle through the skin, you're sticking it with light rays that's going to a certain depth. So how can you say it's non-invasive? If it's non-invasive, that means it's not touching it, so it's not working. I mean, come on, people. Let's just, I mean, I'm just reading this stuff, and this is coming to your veterinarian. And your veterinarian, if they don't read and understand, they're going to bring this to you. And you have an obligation to say, wait a minute, what do you mean non-invasive acupuncture? You're still, I mean, what's the point then? If you're not going to invade and go underneath the skin and stimulate the nerves, what's the point? So yeah, it's invasive. Then it says the positive physiological effects of laser therapy on the equine patient. They don't say what they are. They just say that there's positive physiological effects, and nowhere do they put in parentheses, and we'll also discuss the negative effects, such as it doesn't work, or maybe we fry some tissue because we don't know what we're doing. I don't know. Where's the balance here? It's just about the positive. Okay, fine. Recommended dosing for wound healing, acute and chronic conditions, and more. And that's really interesting because I'll never forget sitting in the back row with my good friend, veterinarian, co-owner of one of the most successful standardbreds ever. And we're listening to these people talk about shockwave and the use of shockwave therapy. And they're saying, well, I use this frequency for this long. And the other guy said, no, I use this frequency for this long. And they were polar opposites. And yet they're both claiming that their way was best. And she and I were laughing in the back row, not out loud. We're just not disrespectful, but it was still a little bit out loud, saying, I'll bet you any amount of money in their research that they've watched the ultrasound and they said, oh, everything looked better. They went back to work, which is what they said. The ultrasound made it better. The therapy was making the ultrasound look like it was healing. And we both nudged each other and said, I'll bet you they were lame again, like in 30 days. And sure enough, every one of them broke down again because they hadn't healed all the way for two reasons. One, they tried to circumvent the natural healing process by advance or accelerating through these modalities. And second, they're still not feeding the horse with materials needed to make the repairs. Have I said this enough on all my podcasts? I mean, I'm going to say it again and again and again until all of you get it. Now let's see, integrating laser therapies for performance maintenance. Oh, so we've gone now from fixing to maintaining, which means, oh, there's a reason for me to come out there and do this over and over and over again. Now, I get it. Floating teeth, I'm out there doing maintenance. We get it. Farriers go out there and do maintenance because the hoof keeps growing. We get that. But if you're doing maintenance, it means that whatever you're doing with this horse in your training process is causing it to break down again. So again, you're not going for the root cause. You're not saying, hey, let's stop the damage. And how to maximize clinical results with our patented deep tissue applicator. So wow, get this one, and we've got the patented deep dish pizza deep tissue applicator. So I'm just trying to bring to your attention exactly what's going on. I've got one more. I know you guys are bored to death, but this comes from the great AVMA, which is the American Veterinary Medical Association. They send us news. And I find them fascinating because here down the bottom, they have Mars acquires Heska in a $1.3 billion deal. Now, if you don't know anything about Mars, Mars is one of the largest companies, agricultural companies in the world. And they are going to buy Heska, which is a veterinary equipment firm, for $1.3 billion. I mean, we all would just like a 1 million, let alone having a 1,300 millions. Anyway, in a joint statement, Mars said it would pay $120 per share. Okay, Heska will join Mars Pet Care's new division. Now listen carefully. One company, Mars, is going to now have Heska, which has veterinary equipment. They have a division called Science and Diagnostics, which includes Antech Diagnostics. Now, Antech is just huge. I mean, everybody uses Antech to do their blood work on the horses and on the dogs and cats and everything else. Antech's businesses include reference laboratories, veterinary imaging and education, and telemedicine with board-certified specialist support services. So that's Antech, and Antech is owned by Mars. Let's see what else Mars has. They also has an international network of more than 2,500 pet hospitals, including Banfield, Blue Pearl, Mount Pleasant, and VCA, Veterinary Clinics of America. And I see these clinics everywhere. They're in these strip malls, and they've got these small animal vets in there, and they're just bringing these pets in and kicking them out, and they're making a ton of money. Because it says, because of a rise in pet ownership, Mars is looking to expand its animal diagnostics business. And yeah, the pet animals is rising. And this is why so many veterinarians are getting into the small animal medicine and surgery. And the horse vets are like struggling. We're getting fewer and fewer. And the horses, I have horse people all the time saying, I can't find a vet. I found somebody who said, her vet lives 2 hours away and she just wanted to do blood work. But to have routine blood work done on her horse to help diagnose something is impossible for her. The vet's not going to go 2 hours driving all the way out to her place to draw blood and drive 2 hours all the way back to put that through a lab test. They're just not going to happen. The more and more rural you are, the harder it is for veterinarians or horse owners to have care for their animals, for their horses. Anyway, not to be a big downer, I guess this was a little bit of a down thing. I'm just saying that in that earlier podcast that I had a couple of weeks ago of cognitive laziness, we all have to dig down deep and say, okay, what is actually happening here? I see a bunch of words, some of the words I don't understand, they seem big. I don't understand the concepts, but if you just start thinking about how did horses exist for so long without our help? And I was just exposed to a Facebook guy, an old curmudgeon guy who is now doing videos on Facebook who basically says, well, Granddad didn't do it this way. This is what Granddad did. And I liked him. I mean, he's just a rough cut cowboy. Or horseman or horse person or whatever you want to call us nowadays. And it was interesting because he's basically saying the same thing I'm saying. He doesn't have a veterinary degree. He's probably doesn't have a college degree or even a high school degree the way he talks. I'm not degrading him. I'm just saying the way he presents himself isn't very sophisticated, but it's loaded with common sense. Loaded. Now, he thinks parasite control is you take a can of tobacco and you feed it to your horse, and the tobacco is going to kill the parasites without killing the normal gut microbes. That's what he says. And that's what Granddad did. He says, we never had a parasite problem. And then Doc T comes along and says, okay, parasites are caused by overcrowding and eating where you defecate. And if you pick up your manure out of your stalls and make sure the horse doesn't eat where they defecate, they won't need parasite medicines because the immune system will take care of that. And so we're saying the same thing, but differently. In other words, he's saying, how did horses live this long without parasites? I'm saying the same question. And the answer is we didn't have a fence up for so many years. And now you put a fence up. And so if you put a fence up, they are going to get parasites. And he's chosen to use tobacco. Some people use diatomaceous earth, which doesn't work. Some people like to use the parasite medications that are being given. Some people like to do fecal counts and monitor, and from there make a decision whether they want to give a parasitic drug. So there's so many different ways to approach this. And I hope that you guys listening here can understand that I'm trying to bring science and blend it with common sense and 50 years of experience of being with horses, which may not be exactly as much as the old guy, but it certainly is pretty close. And try to put together some good ideas, things that you can use. But it's really hard when we're being bombarded with emails constantly that say, just, you've got a problem and I've got a solution. And we get sucked into that. And I don't want you guys to be sucked into it. I want you to read everything and question, okay, what do you actually mean? And say, like, it's non-invasive. Well, how can it be non-invasive? You're sending this light through the skin to irritate or to stimulate whatever, some tissue underneath the skin. So it's invasive. I mean, just stuff like that. You've got to be asking yourself the questions. You have to be not cognitive lazy. You have to be cognitively diligent. And that's why you're here listening to this podcast. That's why you listen to all my podcasts. Even though sometimes you're like saying, gosh, you know, I've heard enough of Doc. I think I want to hear something else. And believe me, if you do, that's fine. I get it. I listen to some people, and there are times where I say, no, I just have to go away, especially when these things are 45 minutes long to an hour. Who's got time? But the point is, you need to start thinking and then reference these and scroll through and say, okay, what did I say about this? Take some notes. You have to be cognitively diligent, active. You can't be passive, because if you're passive, you'll be sold a bill of goods in every facet of your life, not just with your horses, but in everything. And the list is way too long. Let's just stick with horses. And that's what I'm here for. And I'm glad you're here too. Thank you so much for joining me. I plan to do some more podcasts like every week, get them out there. I'm getting back in the role of things since I came back from that therapy I had all summer, all winter long. So I'm back. I'm almost 100%. I'm going to read my book, Since the Days of the Romans, my autobiography of how I started with horses. I think it's helpful for anybody, especially young people who are thinking about getting into a horse profession, especially being a veterinarian, and just figure out what it took for this old lug of a nut to get tightened and back on the road to becoming a veterinarian. If I can do it, you guys can do it too. So that's about it. I'm done here in the hotel room. I've got another week here before I get back home. And please join me at the Horses Advocate. Consider becoming a member, because members of the Horse Advocate can hear me every other Thursday night, ask your questions directly, and I try to answer them the best I can. That's what I'm here for, helping you help your horses thrive in a human world. So that's it, Doc T. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey everyone, Doc T here. Thank you for listening to my content. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, and give a star review? However it's presented to you, I want you to do that. There's two reasons. The first, of course, is to improve this product. This way I know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve upon, what topics you want me to cover. But more importantly, it's also going to help others find me. And by doing that, you are now engaged in this mission of helping horses thrive in a human world. By you helping, we can reach others. And that I would be so grateful for. And remember, go to thehorsesadvocate.com for updates on this information. Thehorsesadvocate.com. And again, thank you so much for being here. Doc T out.